humans, the popularity of this deck is actually one of the big draws to Affinity right now. Humans in the main deck does not have a lot that meaningfully interacts with Affinity. It's really just a straight race, and Affinity can have some draws that are just completely insane, where things like Kitesail Freebooter or Thalia don't really play against a deck like Affinity.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, when both these two linear decks go to battle against each other, I generally like Affinity. It's pretty fast. It's combo speed.
Yes.
And Humans is about a turn slower than that, so unless Humans does something interactive, if both players do their own thing, I expect Affinity to win.
Yeah, Affinity tends to be pretty favored in game one, and then the composition of Braverman's sideboard, that's going to be a big question mark. They can have access to things like Kataki, even though it is a spirit, it's still playable. Frequently you see Reclamation Sage and or Vithian Renegades. I actually had a Humans player Stony silence me out of day 2 in the Milwaukee Open, which was pretty frustrating.
So going here, Michael Braverman, we've seen him with some invitational top 8s to his name. We have turn 1 Signal Pest and turn 1 Avacyn's Pilgrim from Braverman.
When you lead on Signal Pest, I would expect a strong follow-up from Affinity on turn 2, something like a Steel Overseer, Arcbound Ravager. You want to have one of those good payoffs. I think that Andrew has mulligan to 6, so we'll see exactly what he can do.
Yeah, Avacyn, so Michael Braverman a bit lower to the ground. You see 4 copies of Avacyn's Pilgrim actually in the deck. So that gives him 12 1-mana creatures to go with Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, he's actually on Collected Company instead of Ether Vial.
Okay, so yeah.
That's the draw for those mana creatures.
Yeah, I was going to say, normally we'll see Vial in that spot, and fair enough.
One copy, rather, of Kessig Malcontents in the deck.
Andrew, just that turn 2 Vault Scourge. So we're going to Champion of the Parish from Michael. If it comes into a racing situation, Champion is the card Michael wants to be seeing.
Yeah, and Andrew's draw is not presenting much.
No.
When you don't have any of your heavy hitters, Steel Overseer, Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating on turn 2, it's hard to really beat any deck with Affinity.
He does have Etched Champion and a 3rd land in hand, so it looks like that was his payoff spell. Affinity, I was looking for a combination of mana, payoff, and setup. In this matchup, that will be good at blocking, but when this only for so long. If this comes down to racing, Etched Champion doesn't do much.
Yeah, this is a matchup where that one's tough. If you can get a Cranial Plating to go with it in short order, it does a really good job. An interesting interaction in the matchup is that if you have Champion and your opponent Phantasmal Images it, they just get to block, which is really unfortunate.
And big play by Braverman. The cards that give humans the fastest draws are all on display here. Champion of the Parish, Avacyn's Pilgrim, and now Thalia's Lieutenant. A great turn for Braverman, and that should keep paying off down the road.
Yeah, Andrew's really not doing anything that's anywhere near this fast.
No.
He has Vault Scourge online. He can start gaining some life, but you really need to get a plating on that.
Yeah, he picks up Mox Opal for the turn. That's a great card. He's looking for a Cranial Plating, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think things are going to get worse. Michael has a Reflector Mage set up for next turn.
Reflector Mage is fine. I mean, you can't bounce the Etched Champion. You can bounce one of these creatures, but this additional mana source means that Andrew can start firing up these Nexuses.
Well, looking at something to bounce, Master of Ethereum was cast, and here's a swing. It's going to be 3 from the Vault Scourge and 1 from the Signal Pest, so that's a swing of 4.
Yeah, Master of Ethereum is a nice one to hit with the Reflector Mage.
Yeah, that's brutal that's how this plays out. Some life gain on Andrew's side. He's up to 21, Braverman down to 13. But yeah, it looks like we see a couple Mantis Riders, and we'll confirm if it's Reflector Mage on Michael's side. That's the card Andrew's hoping to dodge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Master still just a 4/4, threatening to be a 5/5 with the Nexus activation up.
Godless Shrine down to 11 for Michael. And yeah, that card in the back, it looks like 2 Mantis. He has a Reflector Mage and 2 copies of Mantis Rider. And a Phantasmal Image. Yeah, here's Reflector Mage. Bouncing, it's got to just be Master. Counters on Thalia's Lieutenant and on Champion of the Parish. And this would be a swing for make it 8. Andrew will go down to 13. Yeah, and he can image the Reflector Mage. Yeah.
Yeah. There's really not
Danger.
draws in the Affinity deck that can take Andrew out of this if Braverman plays it right, and he's been doing that so far.
In matchups like this, where both decks are linear creature decks, is Reflector Mage the best card for Michael?
In game 1, yes. There's going to be some upgrades post-sideboard.
Remember that from when this was in Standard, before it got banned out of Standard. Yeah, the creature. This Standard is frequently creature mirrors, and that was why Reflector Mage was so good.
Yes. Affinity has a way of going wide where you can invalidate Reflector Mage. Certainly Cranial Plating does it, but Andrew has not really presented the cards that do anything of that nature.
Yeah, it depends what the payoff is, right? If it's Cranial Plating.
Reflector Mage can actually really embarrass Arcbound Ravager.
Yeah. Yeah, so Plating and Etched Champion are fine. Steel Overseer's probably less than fine. Depends if you get to tap it first.
If you get it on turn 1 or 2, it is more than fine.
Yeah, but then Master of Ethereum is just a huge beating.
Yeah.
So swings, puts Michael down to 9. He's going to cast Etched Champion. That'll be able to block the largest champion of that large champion of the parish, but one card left in hand, I believe, for Andrew, and we know it. And check that, he has 2. His main deck, as far as removal goes, he has 3 copies of Galvanic Blast, no Dispatch or anything like that.
And, take a look at Braverman's life total. He is down to 9. And Jessup does have a reasonably wide board given the Blinkmoth Nexus hanging out there in the lands. He can get Braverman in Galvanic Blast range without too much trouble. The question is, how much time does he have in this game?
Here's Mantis Rider. I'm wondering whether or not plating off the top would win. We're close.
We have 4 artifacts on the battlefield. That'd be the 5th. You can fire up a Nexus for 6. If you had another mana source, that'd be lethal. So Signal Pest actually is lethal.
Mantis Rider, the cast, and it's going to be a full attack from Braverman. So we have a 5/5, a 3/3, a 2/2, a 2/3, and a 3/3. So putting Etched Champion in front of the largest creature, the 5/5, means that we're looking at 10. Andrew will drop to 5. Unless he wants to remove Avacyn's Pilgrim, in which case he'd go to 2. I don't know if it matters either way. He's got 1 attack to win here.
Yeah, pretty much looking at the top of the deck here. We are not playing a game of attrition, especially now that the Mantis Rider is available to block the Vault Scourge.
With Master of Ethereum being cast this next turn, it's just 7. So actually, if he just draws a land, the Master's lethal. So it'd be 3 off the Etched Champion. Make that 4 off the Etched Champion from Battle Cry. 3 off the Vault Scourge.
Well, the Vault Scourge is getting blocked by the Mantis Rider.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's tougher. So 1 off Signal Pest, 4 off Etched Champion, and then 3 off a land only makes it 8. So we were still 1 short.
Yep. Top deck did not look like one of the good ones.
Andrew chose to block the 5/5 champion. He drops to 5.
And this is where you start to think, is it possible to get in a chip shot with a champion, use the lands to do some blocking, and squeak out another top deck?
Remember, because Michael's hand is Phantasmal Image and Mantis Rider, it's just not very likely that Andrew can survive the next attack. It's either a copied Reflector Mage or another flying attacker.
Right. Both of these things very bad for Andrew.
Right.
And he's lining things up. Affinity is one of the more basic math-intensive decks in Magic the Gathering. A lot of games won and lost just off of navigating, thinking about the next 2 combat steps.
So Master of Ethereum is the play. Last card looks to be another Mox Opal.
Yeah, The draw this turn was Welding Jar. He cast that one, which makes his master larger.
So he's going to swing the Edge Champion for 3, Michael down to 6, Mox Opal. He's left back Ink Moth as an extra blocker. He's hoping that this is enough. Now, we'll see if it is. Can Andrew survive the turn?
With Braverman's hand, even a mana source is just a good draw here. You can cast the 3 mana card and then Phantasmal Image, one of the either Mantis Rider or Reflector Mage. Andrew's at 5. It's functionally 6 if he gets to block with the Vault Scourge. But another human entering the battlefield will make the champion alone lethal, so that one has to be blocked. Currently, the Lieutenant and the Mantis Rider combined, those are lethal. If Andrew can just get out of this turn, a top-deck Galvanic Blast does do it now.
We'll see if he can get out of the turn. That's really going to be key. So Phantasmal Image copies Reflector Mage, Bouncing Master of Ethereum, putting counters on both Champion and Thalia's Lieutenant. Master back in hand for Andrew. And we did get Noble Hierarch. That will just pump again for Champion and Lieutenant. And full swing. So the 2 large, he can block 3 things. And that only lets 4 damage through if he does. So, yes, Andrew should get a chance at Galvanic Blast. He might even, with the help of that Vault Scourge, we'll see. We'll see if Welding Jar can do something for him.
Yeah, with the Master out of the question,
yeah, then
there's nothing that's really exciting to jar up. There's a flying blocker on the swing back.
Right, so he's going to activate, block the 3 biggest, take 4, go to 1. So top-decked Galvanic Blast, a top-decked Cranial Plating.
Yep.
And I think Arcbound Ravager works too.
Yeah, just dealing 6 as long as you can maintain 3 other artifacts along with the champion.
Well,
which he still has Mox Opal. He'll have Blink Moth Nexus. You attack, no blocks, throw everything on the Ravager, throw it on the champion. And it looks like he has the volume of artifacts necessary to do that.
So he'll have some outs. See if he can convert on any of them.
So he's looking at jarring the Signal Pest. That makes sense. If you have something that just needs to get across in combat this turn, then that is +1 for the Edge Champion connecting.
Yeah, I do like that. So the Signal Pest will regenerate. Andrew gains 1, goes to 6, tap on Signal Pest. And let's see if he can top deck his way in. He's got 1 card to do it. Land from Braverman. Shields are down. Looking for Galvanic Blast, Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating. Can he hit? Andrew draws, and that's not going to be it. Starksteel Citadel.
No, thank you. Yeah, we're going to be going to game 2 here.
And yep, picking up the cards does Andrew. So game 1 goes the direction of humans. A large board presence actually took him a lot of turns. This was close.
Andrew's draw really not presenting haymakers as fast as you need to in the matchup, but yeah, even still, made a game of it.
And that gives Braverman's team the edge in the game 1s. Kyle Lacey in Legacy also took game 1. However, their teammate Jeremy Henry, Mardu Vehicles, lost game 1. So a split across the board. Players are going to sideboard, and we'll be back for game 2. So we are back here with Game 2, Braverman versus Andrew Jessup. On Affinity's side, for Andrew Jessup, typically Affinity gets worse after board against most decks, and that's why we see his sideboard just being this mash of different type of hate cards. Now, he actually might have some game here. Going through, we have Ancient Grudge, Damping Sphere, that's a new one. He actually has another new one. We'll get to that in a second. Girapur Aether Grid, Spell Pierce. He has a copy of the Antiquities War. Really interesting sideboard choice, something I don't think we'll see here.
Yeah, that's got to be for more grindy matchups.
Yeah. Etched Champion, that would be his 4th copy. He's 3-1 in the main. 1 Grafdigger's Cage, a Torpor Orb, a Relic of Progenitus, a second Master of Ethereum, and a copy of Wear Tear.
Affinity as a deck generally sideboards very light, and you see the deck, you only have so many options for any matchup, and in this one you really don't have much of anything. Etched Champion, the best card in the sideboard, that one's probably coming in. There's an argument for having Master in the matchup. Personally, I tend to board low or off of them because of Reflector Mage against humans.
Yeah.
And Girapur Aether Grid is the kind of card that looks good on the surface until you play a game and you get Thalia's Lieutenanted. It's like fine to have, but it's been pretty bad every time I've tried it in a matchup like this.
Now on Michael's side, his sideboard is flush for this matchup. 3 Izzet Staticasters, 2 Auriok Champions, 2 Stony Silence, 2 Yeah.
Why?
Why does he have Stony on top of Staticaster?
Why do humans players have Stony? I hate this.
Well, Staticaster's great already, right?
Yeah, Staticaster's excellent. Stony is just like the hard lock.
And
Worship. That card's good.
How about Reclamation Sage?
That card's also good.
Remember they see Vithian Renegades in that spot. I don't like...
So what I've actually heard is despite Renegades being a human, apparently Reclamation Sage is still easier to cast for the humans deck.
I don't get that.
That's just what I'm told, man.
Okay. Andrew's going to 6. That's not going to help him any. But this is going to be really tough on Andrew post board.
Yeah, Braverman can really shuffle in all these 15 cards and cut 15 at random from his deck, and he should be pretty good in the matchup.
I don't know about Sin Collector.
That one's not so hot, but you know sometimes you hit a Galvanic Blast.
Freebooter's great against Signal Pest. Just block it.
Auriok Champion maybe not so much in this matchup.
You can't Aether Grid it.
That's true.
Andrew having kept on 6, and we'll go for game number 2. Unclaimed Territory into Noble Hierarch for Braverman. The turn 2 Memnite for Jessup, Spire of Industry. He's going to be Memnite and Steel Overseer. He will pass.
Let's play a game of Don't Get Stony Silenced.
Or like Reflector Mage would be hard to beat here too, right?
Well, that one's actually not hard to beat in the sense that you're going to have time to reset. Stony Silence is actually like impossible to beat.
Right, how about is it Staticaster killing the Steel Overseer?
Yeah, that is not ideal.
No sideboard cards.
Ugh.
2 Cranial Platings, Arcbound Ravager, and Galvanic Blast for Andrew Jessup.
Oh no, he only has 2 artifacts, and he can't cast one of these and Galvanic Blast right away. Oh, this is so rough.
Oh no, yeah. I see the
Staticaster
problem
has
now.
3 toughness.
Why does it have to be a 0-3? Even if it's a 0-1, we'd still play it. He plays Cranial Plating.
Yeah, that's messed up. Andrew is in all kinds of trouble.
Is it because the Staticaster is going to keep killing his things? I think that's why.
I would argue that is part of the problem.
Or is it because it's going to exalt and attack for 1?
There's a lot of lines available.
Champion of the Parish for Braverman. He's got Collected Company in his hand. As if these creatures in play weren't going to do it.
That'll find 2 more Staticasters.
Ryan, he's got a Phantasmal Image, which could be on Is It Staticaster?
That's just
if there's 2 of them going, can they? What does Affinity do?
If there's 1 of them going, it's already a problem.
Yeah, I guess there's no reason. Actually, the second one doesn't do much, does it?
You do want to fire off the Staticaster on the Memnite right away.
Yeah, just keep tapping it.
If you can sniff out that the issue is Metalcraft on Galvanic Blast. That's the kind of thing you're more likely to spot if you have experience playing Affinity.
Thalia's Lieutenant. Well, this is fun. 1, 1, 2. That's 5 power. 5 power for 2 mana.
That card is all right.
Noble Hierarch swings for 2. That's nice. Anders to 18. Shoot it. Shoot the Mem Knight. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Everything into the graveyard. Inkmoth Nexus, the draw for Andrew. Well, he can now fight. He could get Metalcraft for a Galvanic Blast now.
He sure could.
Land, second plating, Galvanic Blast, something got him.
All right, then it's 2 cranial platings versus 5 power of creatures. That's likely to become 7 in short order at least. Braverman's going to be firing off a Collected Company if he doesn't already have something great in his hand. You gotta admire the determination of Andrew Jessup. Though I can't imagine it's going to amount to anything in this game.
Shoots down the Staticaster.
What he does have available is now that the Staticaster is off the table, Inkmoth Nexus among the lands.
Inkmoth, equip.
There's no Mantis Rider to block yet.
Can that be a one-shot? If he draws Citadel.
So
Inkmoth, yes. If he just draws Darksteel Citadel, that's a 10-point. That's a lethal attacker.
Mox Opal also does it.
Okay. Affinity's messed up. Here is Collected Company from Braverman. If he finds a Staticaster or a Mantis Rider, it doesn't matter. He finds, oh boy, is this a lot of damage. Thalia's Lieutenant and for Phantasmal Image and another Thalia's Lieutenant. So we should see to make sure that this isn't just lethal. 2 more Lieutenants. So
I see.
oh boy, these get a lot of counters.
So +4 on the white creatures, +2 on the Hierarch. So that's 3, 6, 10, 15. So it's 2 shy of lethal. That's what we're looking at. If the Hierarch has access to a 1-mana creature to cast, it is lethal.
Oh wait, then the Hierarch's not attacking.
Oh, you're right. Yep, that takes it off.
But yeah, this is good. But it actually isn't enough to take away Andrew's out again.
Yeah, so we saw him fail to appeal to a 1-outer, or like 1 card, several outer, game 1. Similar situation here. Out's a little more slim.
Yeah, he needs the problem is a land alone doesn't do it. He needs an artifact land or a Mox Opal.
Yep. The last card in hand, I believe, has been Arcbound Ravager. That one doesn't do anything.
Doesn't work.
Arcbound Ravager plus Cranial Plating never amounts to additional damage.
This is 15 Andrew to 2. So Darksteel Citadel or Mox Opal are the outs. See if Andrew can hit one. He missed on his outs last game. Does he hit? Draws.
Ooh,
and there it is!
wow.
Darksteel Citadel! So activate a 1-1, equip it, 6-1, equip it, 11-1. Infect, and he hits back. You know he was playing toward it with the speed he played that, and we are going to game 3.
That is amazing.
All right.
Okay, you can never quite count Affinity out.
And all right, Andrew Jessup evens things up.
Oh, that's nice.
And you got to go back to that, even going so as far as to Galvanic Blast the Staticaster there and not the champion. You know, there was a 4/4 champion of the parish already. Just see that one coming.
You would have to be a pretty novice player to make that play.
Well, I am a novice. That's why I wanted to make it.
Andy J's not going to miss that line.
No, he didn't miss any of them, and it is 1-1 evened up there. They're going to get ready for game number 3. We're going to be back in just a minute. So we are back. Andrew Jessup, both games has gotten well behind on the board and plays and set himself up some long shot outs. Game 1 he misses, but game 2 he hits, and that's why we're going to 3. Also going to 3, teammate Brad Carpenter evened things up on the legacy tables.
It's definitely a matchup where Carpenter's sideboard helps a lot. Lands is a really tough one in game 1.
Dang, that was good. Okay, Andrew was on a mulligan to 6 there, too. That's a turn 2 Staticaster.
Yeah. Well, let's see if he can fade Stony Silence in game 3.
You know, Ryan, when I said, hey, maybe we could – here we go. I'm not going to be a novice now. Or maybe I'm just a novice for all the wrong reasons. I said, what if we phantasmal image that Staticaster? How will he beat 2 of them? And you said, how is he going to beat 1? And I was like, hey, maybe we should have listened.
He did beat 1.
Maybe if there was another one in play, we'd have been okay.
Second Staticaster would have been pretty
I probably
powerful.
would have also added 2 turns to my clock, which is bad. but just saying how it played out.
Yeah, second Staticaster. I don't think Andy was going to beat that.
It's a little results oriented, you might say.
You could make the argument that Braverman wanted to find a second Staticaster, as he does play 3 off of that collected company, but he did have the option to clone it.
Braverman's going to consult with teammate Jeremy Henry on this 7.
If you get cheesed by enough Inkmoth Nexuses with cranial plating, you start to play a little more scared. You'll start to copy your Staticaster, and I think there's a pretty strong argument for that having been the correct line in that game. Not even from just the results-oriented perspective, but in the sense that if you have 2 Staticasters, your clock does not need to be particularly fast. You're not going to run into a 1-card interaction from Affinity that's actually going to deal with both Staticasters.
Mulligan to 6 for Braverman. This time, he's going to have to do what Andrew did last game, win with a 6 on the play. Jessup keeping 7.
The last time I played against humans with Affinity, my opponent mulliganed to 5 and played turn 2 Stony Silence.
Well, as we already established, Braverman has a heck of a sideboard for this matchup. You know, if he loses this, it's going to be all the wrong lessons. If he loses this game, and then somebody says, hey, how'd you run go? He's like, well, I won game 1 against Affinity, but I lost both board games. He's like, I gotta put more cards on my sideboard for the Affinity matchup.
Yikes. Yeah.
It's like, I'd never win that one. Hold on. I got to add more Stonies.
Maybe like a third worship.
A Kataki to company into.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once you have company, Kataki, I think there's a real argument for that over Stony Silence in the deck.
Just play them both.
You might lose to Ironworks more often. I'm not sure how the Kataki math shapes up against that one. I feel
Ironworks can beat Kataki.
Yeah, I feel like Ironworks is pretty reasonable against Kataki.
Yeah.
I will not pay for my Iker Wellspring.
That's fine. That's actually nice. Yeah, I like Iker Wellspring and Chromatic Star die. That's fine. Draw.
Yeah. Kataki, yeah, so not much of a card against Tron.
Turn 1, Noble Hierarch from Braverman, off Cavern of Souls. Looks like he has turn 2/3 Mantis Rider as a setup, but I don't know if he has any sideboard cards as we see land Memnite from Jessup. Now he does, though. He drew, is it Staticaster?
That would be a good turn 2 play.
Is that better than turn 2 Mantis Ridering here?
Yes.
Okay. Apparently that question wasn't very difficult.
If there's a turn 2 Arcbound Ravager, you would much prefer to have already killed the Memnite. Ravager is one of the cards that actually has reasonable play against Staticaster. Now, if Jessup just has turn 2 Steel Overseer, you kind of want him to play it, and then you just have the Staticaster, but you don't have any way of knowing that.
The Ravager play makes what you said makes a lot of sense. Also, if he just has turn 2, like Citadel Mox Opal Master of Ethereum, then you get really punished for.
Yeah, Master is quite good against Staticaster. We'll see what he goes for. He has already fetched an untapped duel, so he's doing something.
Is there a reason when he uses Staticaster, does he have to shoot at main phase, or can he play it and leave it up?
You could leave it up. Maybe it also just has flash.
Yeah. But he's fetched this turn, which means he's executing whatever he is at sorcery, doing it at sorcery speed.
You would think.
Yeah, and he's just going to shoot down Memnite right away. This timing window is unlikely to make a difference.
Yeah. Because even if it's something like enabling Metalcraft, you should have a window to respond.
Andrew draws Steel Overseer.
Not so good.
I don't like that one as much now. I'd like a different card, please. Here's Cranial Plating, and he will pass.
And the land hanging out back there is a Blinkmoth Nexus, not an Inkmoth Nexus. It's a lot harder to assemble random lethal using Blinkmoth Nexus, rather.
Andrew's going to have to come back here, though. So in the Legacy table, Kyle Lacey wins Game 3 with lands. So Brad Carpenter with that loss means Andrew has to get the W here.
Yes, and now he's under a reasonable
Yeah.
clock, plus it's a Staticaster.
Mantis Rider crashes in for 4. Andrew drops to 16.
Mantis Rider also just able to block most of what you can assemble lethal with.
Well, he has Etched Champion picked up for the turn and has Cranial Plating in place. So that's a lot of times how they get through hate cards.
That can amount to a ton of damage. One thing about that kind of setup is that he let on, Memnite land. He does not have the volume of zeros that sometimes you need to actually punch through with plating in time.
Yeah. I mean, if his next land is another Darksteel Citadel, that will help.
Yep.
It's not. It's another Blinkmoth Nexus. No, actually, there you go. Citadel. No, he had them both.
Okay.
Darksteel Citadel, Etched Champion. So right now, with the plating on it, the champion is a 6-2. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's not.
Yeah.
I think Michael with another Mantis Rider is going to crash for 6 on his own.
If you can get 2 more artifacts on the battlefield that can't be hit by the Staticaster, or you're willing to give up some material, use the Blinkmoth Nexus, cast some 1 toughness creatures and chip in for 8, and then try to set up to chip in for 9 next turn, that's kind of what you're looking at here.
Andrew drops to 12, and now this matchup is do or die both ways as Dan Jessup wins the match on the standard table. We'll see Reclamation Sage from Braverman on the plating, and that's huge. It already looked like Andrew was behind in the race, and now he's well behind.
Right. His odds were a little long, and now what he needs to do is, in addition to finding more artifacts to beef up a plating, he has to find another plating.
And he drew Springleaf Drum this turn. That would have done it.
An Arcbound Ravager would play. It's less good. It's a lot more scrappy than using plating, and you kind of have to bank on fading Braverman increasing his clock at all. If that's what's produced.
If that Reclamation Sage hadn't been there, Andrew probably could have sealed this off in 2 turns.
Yeah.
I don't know that he can anymore.
And all of the lands produce colorless mana here, so we're not really looking at the potential for Galvanic Blast. Though if he produces a drum, that changes, obviously. But looks like all artifacts and lands in hand. Also quite a bit shy of making 1 Galvanic Blast matter.
He'll still start for some chip damage. Here's 2 from the champion. If he's setting it up so if he draws Ravager or plating, that he needs to be in range when it happens. Plays Springleaf Drum, but the rest of his hand is just lands and things that died is at Staticaster.
Yeah. He can pretty much only make it in range over the course of 2 turns. Another Mantis Rider would seal things up, and I believe that Braverman does have it. Consulting the team, making sure they don't leave anything on the table, but I think it's pretty clear cut to just jam with Ryder here, and they agree. There is a question of whether you want to like attack with the Sage, and if Blink Moth is fired up, do you want to use the Staticaster or sit on that? Makes sense to me to just sit on it. The more actions you commit and exhaust the resources on your turn, the more potential for something like an Arcbound Ravager showing up and making things weird.
So this is potentially a chump blocker. If a Staticaster tries to shoot here, Andrew can... I guess he can... He's just trying to get Braverman to tap the Staticaster, right? If he tries to shoot, then he can pump the Citadel, or the Nexus.
Yeah.
But then it can't block.
Wouldn't be able to block, but it would survive.
Yeah,
and the Staticaster would be tapped.
Right. So this is a bit of a bait play. If Michael just says fine is activated, do you think Andrew's going to chump block, or is he just going to take the 6 anyway? Or the 8 anyway?
I think you probably have to block. I'm not sure what the plan is for the following turn.
Yeah.
If he has something like Arcbound Ravager, Vault Scourge, that could be what he's trying to play to try to get a lifelink around the battlefield. That's why he would want the Staticaster tapped, so he could actually set up with that. In most situations, I imagine trying to block is actually the plan.
Yeah, he'll pump to save it. Takes the 8 damage. Andrew would drop to 4 here. And on tap, see, unlike these last 2 games, there's not a one of that he's drawing to, and it's certainly not Galvanic Blast.
Yeah, that's lethal on him, not on Braverman. And he had games that were within reach. In Game 1, he failed the top deck. In Game 2, he did find exactly what he needed right on time, but this game has kind of felt out of reach through the entire course of it.
So Steel Overseer uses, Drum to cast Galvanic Blast and shoot down his Staticaster. He's hoping to survive with Steel Overseer. Says go.
Yeah, you can use Blink Moth Nexus to block one of the riders.
Yep, and then that's Champion to block the Rex Sage. He only goes to 1. A lot of cards get him here. Thalia's Lieutenant, for example. Michael sells a full grip. Reflector Mage actually doesn't get him.
Yeah. Can't get rid of a Nexus as a blocker.
Yeah, but another Kessig Malcontents, another Mantis Rider, a Phantasmal Image. There's a lot. Collected Company with a land. So he's going to attack, and since he can't have lethal, he'll attack with just the Mantis Riders. Andrew activates a Nexus to block. It's going to block one of them. Goes to 1. Treading water still. But Michael's at 15. Just doesn't seem to be in range yet. And he's going to make Champion of the Parish as another blocker. And how does Andrew put together 15 damage? We'll have to see.
And from 1.
More 1-drops, more creatures, more creatures. 2 Avacyn's Pilgrims after the Champion of the Parish.
Yeah, the Pilgrims are just lethal, and this is a very wide board.
Yes, 6 attackers. That should be... Andrew can't survive this. He has to win.
And he just doesn't have anything that does that.
Draw another Etched Champion. Not going to do it. He has that and another Steel Overseer, and he extends the hand. Well fought on Andrew's side. A great, especially Game 2, to find these windows for victory, but it is not enough. Michael Braverman plays well, and those... His sideboard was ready. We didn't even get to the Stony Silences.
Yeah.